having a script is always better than free flow in the call. But in my opinion, before even having that script, it's really important to choose the right offer, right? Now, the reason why I say this is because, in my opinion, the sales is about helping people, it's not deceiving others. For example, let's say you're on a trading offer. If you sell a course with a creator who's trying to deceive the clients by not having that actual dashboard, that is deceiving, and the script is actually there to deceive others, right? Whereas if you work for a creator who's actually got the receipt as in dashboard, and if you're trying to convince the prospects to hop on a call, it's just a completely different ballgame. And then in that moment, that script becomes a way for you to persuade others for them to achieve their goals. So before the script, I think the most important thing is to choose a right offer that could actually help others, provide values, and that's when the script plays a big part. I have done hundreds of B2B sales calls at this point, and the offer that I'm on, the one that I just made 20K in 14 days, this one is also B2B offer as well. So I thought it's good to go through the closing script that I've been using, and let's get into it. All right, so here's the B2B closing script that I've been using to help the clients to get to where they want to be in their businesses. Order-wise, framing, discovery, future pacing, pre-handling if it is required, cost of inaction if it is also required, and then I do objection handling and closing at the end. So let's get into it. Most of the prospects that I come across are actually, they're outbound leads. So what I do at the beginning is this. I say, okay, since I'm the one who reached out to you, I'd like to explain what we do and how we can help your company first. After that, if I could ask you a few questions to see if it is a good fit, that'll be great. The reason why I say this is to emphasize that we are playing at an even field and I'm here to help. The thing that I said at the beginning of this video is we're here to help. We're not here to deceive. So this will come across as genuine, authentic. And if you think about it, to actually help the clients, you need to ask a lot of questions to see where the client is at, right? This is another great opportunity for me to demonstrate my knowledge and skill set as well. So for example, if I am a distributor in Korea, which is the offer that I'm on, I could walk them through case studies. I could walk them through the sales channels that we have. So I can establish myself as an authority throughout the call. So I think this framing is really, really important. Once that framing phase is done, now it's a game time to actually find out what the prospect wants and needs. So you want to ask the right questions to, basically uncover the prospect, where it is at and what they want. Have you tried partnership in the past? Have you got any outside help or support? How did that go? What are you looking for? These are some of the generic questions that you can ask. You could also ask technical questions. So if it is an e-com brand, you could ask, what's your best selling product? What are your current sales channel? And you don't have to tell me down to the cents, but as in ballpark, what is your current annual revenue, right? If it is, let's say, for the real estate company, you could ask, okay, how many real estate agents do you have? What is the method that you guys are using to generate the leads? And how do you guys actually follow up with the leads? You can cater your approach based on the company. But what I want to highlight in this one is really the probing and clarifying questions. The conversation that we're having in the call is not like the conversation with the friends, right? If the friend says, oh, I'm going through a tough time today, I'll be like, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I hope you feel better soon. But in the call, as in sales call, we're here to help. So when they say they need help, we really need to understand what they mean by help. So for business context, it could be increasing the revenue. It could be saving some time, or it could be getting some help through our connection and network. There can be gazillion different things, right, when it comes to a form of help. So you really want to clarify that by saying, how so? Can you give me an example? Or you can just simply say, help, and then they'll elaborate on what they mean. What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate on that? That's also a great way to probe and clarify. So once I understand what the prospect needs, then I will move on to the feature pacing. Once again, because we are talking about the legitimate way to help the prospect, whatever I say in the feature pacing is true, and it will come across as true, because at the end of the day, it is the fact, right? So you could use your real case studies to show the prospect that whatever you do, whether it's service or product, it's legit, and they can get the benefit from it as well. So for my offer, some of the things that I say is we scaled brand A from Europe to 8 figures a year by doing X, Y, and Z. One of our main channel is celebrity endorsement. And typically this endorsement in 3 days campaign on Instagram, it does the revenue of X, Y, and Z. Or some of the top brands in the skincare industry are doing 8 figures. And here's how we build our own in-house brand to 8 figures a year by demonstrating this case studies and sort of like a receipt. The prospect can get the idea of, okay, this guy has done it. That means if I work with these guys, I could actually get there too, right? That's the purpose of feature pacing. And the next one is pre-objection handling. This one, you can actually do it in the discovery or feature pacing if it is required. What I mean by that is, if the prospect is so keen to work with you, you can skip this one. I mean, there's no limiting belief, right? So you don't actually have to go through this step. But if the prospect has been burned before, or if the prospect has the limiting belief, as in he or she doesn't want to take that risk, you want to address that at the beginning or in the middle of the call whenever you can, so that later down the track, when you want to close a call, there's the least amount of frictions. Okay, so the result is good for you and good for the prospect, because at the end of the day, they're here to get the help, and for us to give them the help, we need to address that limiting belief. So I'm going to share an example. Let's say the prospect says, I had a bad experience with a previous agency, distributor, business partner, or whatever. What if I just waste my time and this doesn't work out? The first thing that you want to do is you want to diffuse. You want to calm the prospect's emotion down by saying, I hear you. That's not a problem at all. And then you want to say, but can I share my perspective on this? So this is how you open up, right? And then you could say something like, would you agree that for any business to succeed, it is fair to say that we need to take a risk? The prospect would be like, yeah, that's true. And you could go, okay, if that is true, then it's really about taking the right risk and the calculated risk. Would you agree? And the prospect will be like, yeah, I agree with that. And then to finish off, you want to say something like, okay, so I've shown you how we have these case studies and we have a proven channels that are working right now. What makes you to think that you are taking the risk that is not calculated? You know, so you can see how we are taking a step one at a time. To give an example, let's say you are a lion and you want to hunt, you want to catch the deer. You don't just run from like 1 kilometer away, go full force. I mean, you can still catch the deer, but that's going to be much harder than you actually starting from 100 meters away, right? So you want to like take a step forward one at a time quietly until you get to close the deer, and then that's when you want to attack. Same thing here. I'm asking question one at a time to reduce the gap, to reduce the fraction within this pre-objection handling. And once the prospect agree A, B, and C, then I finish off with the commitment question. So that's sort of how I address the pre-limiting belief. And then cost of inaction is a great way to emphasize the reality that's going to happen if the prospect doesn't take action. So for example, if the prospect is spending 14 hours a day, obviously if the prospect doesn't take action, he or she is going to be an employee of her or his company. Like you'll be working 14 hours a day. That is roughly 84 hours a week, are you really willing to work that hours? I mean, if you do that, you're not going to have any time with the family. Or what about your health? Like, you want to elaborate on this so that you can demonstrate the alternative of, taking action. What if the prospect doesn't take action, right? So you want to show you this vividly, so the prospect will be like, oh, shoot, like if I actually don't take action, I'm in trouble. The last thing is objection handling. I mean, this one you can do the same thing as what you've done in the pre-objection handling, like how I ask one question at a time to reduce the gap between where the prospect is at and where the prospect should be. Or you could use a metaphor. This metaphor is what I've learned from my mentor. Is Usain Bolt reframe. But you can, so this one, I mean, a lot of my colleagues in the community, as well as my mentor, he recommended me to use for the bizarre, but I reckon this one can be used for B2B sales as well. So you want to start off something like this. Do you know the fastest man called Usain Bolt? Yeah, I know who that is. Well, what do you think he's running towards? The prospect will be like, maybe money. And you could say, yeah, it could be more money, fame, or honor. But let's just say we put a pack of lions behind him. Do you think he's going to run faster or slower? The prospect will be like, yeah, much faster. And then that's when you want to really highlight the prospect's personalized situation. Okay, so you do agree that when you run away from the pain, you're going to put more work. So for you in your business, what is the obstacles that you're going through right now? And then you want to contextualize it a little bit based on the conversation that you had throughout the call. If the prospect is having a difficulty with the time management, you want to emphasize that by saying, okay, so for you, sounds like you're running away from that 80 hours of work. For you to actually get out of that sort of like a prison that you've created for yourself, what is it the right action that you have to take moving forwards, right? If the prospect is going through the revenue problem, you can emphasize that by contextualizing the revenue related statement. So you could say something like, okay, so you really want to, make that transition and you're running away from this bad cash flow. I mean, for you to actually have a better cash flow situation, what is the right action and the mindset that you should have moving forward, right? Can you see how you can use it based on the prospect's personalized situation? And I think this is really important. And then you could finish off with the closing. With the closing, I think it's always good to finish off with the right question rather than the statement. We are not here to, it's a sales call, but we're not here to sell. We're here to help the prospect to make the right decision so that the prospect can get to the dream outcome, right? So rather than, okay, so based on everything that we've talked about today, let's give it a crack and make it happen. Rather than that, you could say something like, okay, so based on everything that we talked about today, including all the sales channels that we have and all the case studies that we have, and considering your current situation, like, how would you like to move forward? You want to say yes from the prospect's mouth, So that is sort of like the closing script that I've been using for the B2B calls, and it has worked extremely well for my offer. And I hope this video helped you guys to navigate the space, especially if it is in B2B offer.